In working with measures of position, I'm going to do some examples with Excel. So basically, I'm not going to do this problem specifically. I was just really just wanting the data. So when we have data measures of position, we have what's called quartiles. We have quartile one, quartile two, quartile three. We also have the max and the min. There's these five little things that we identify. And then there's also the interquartile range and any outliers, things like that. So a couple things I'm going to do in this video is one, I'm going to show you how to find these specific values, max, min, the quartiles. Also, we're going to show you how to do a box and whisker on Excel. So again, we have this little icon which allows us to export the data to Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So my data is now here. Now, some things we can find, and again, I went on and listed the things we need to find. So I typed this all in manually of the things I needed to find. So for the min, I can just hit equals min. I can double click, and then it's asking me what range do you want. So I could type in A1 to A15 here, A1 colon A15, close parenthesis, and it'll find the min of the data. So 2 looks like the smallest value. The max, again, I could hit equals and then type the word max in, or just letter M, and notice how max pops up here. And then again, I could highlight A1 through A15 if I want, and close parenthesis. So I can type it in, or I can click and drag. Now, again, the formulas, if they don't pop up on you, if you hit formulas, more functions, statistical, you can find these in here. So notice how that the min and the max are located here as well. So when it comes to quartiles, what I can do is hit this box here, and I'm going to put the answer in. So if I go to more functions, statistical, if I go to quartiles, so let's see if we have something down here. So notice how we have quartile exclusive, quartile inclusive. Quartile exclusive means to leave out the median in the other two, because we're supposed to find usually you find quartile 2 first, and then quartile 1, then quartile 3. But in finding quartile 1 and quartile 3, there's this inclusive and exclusive of the median. We want to use the XC, which means it's going to exclude the median in these calculations. So you can read more about that if you want out there on the internet, but for us, we're going to be using quartile excluding the median in the other data collections. And that's usually a default in Excel as well. So if I click on that, that gives me my formula here. Notice how quartile.execute. Now there's two things we have to do, the array and the quartile that we want. So I can click and drag A1 through A15 to do my array. And then we have three different quartiles. So to do quartile 1, I can just type in 1 there and hit OK. And it'll give me the quartile 1 is 10. Now, if you want to, you can hit equals and start spelling quartile, Q-U. And notice how quartile, and we want to be doing one excluding the median. So double click that. Notice how it's got the array and the quartile. So if I want to type it in manually, I could type in A1 colon A15. That's my field. And then if I put a comma, notice how first quartile, second quartile, or third quartile, I can click on first quartile and it'll put a 1 in there for me. Close parenthesis, hit execute or hit enter, and notice how it gives me the same answer. So if I want to hit quartile 2, again, I could hit equal and I could type in quartile. And this EXC stands for excluding the median in the other calculation, so we choose that one. Notice how it wants the array, so again, I could highlight A1 through A15, hit comma, and I want the second quartile, which is the median of all of the data, close parenthesis, and it'll do quartile 2. Quartile 3, again, if you want, you can go to more functions, statistical, you can go find quartile and double click on that one. And then also gives me this array. And again, I can click and drag A1 through A15, and it'll put that there. And then I need quartile 3, so I can just type the number 3 in, and it'll do quartile 3. So now I have the key points, the max, the min, the quartiles, and then there's what's called an interquartile range. The interquartile range is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So if I come in here and type in, I could type in either 13 minus 10, or I can choose C2 and C6. So if I type in C6 minus C2, C6 minus C2, notice how it highlights the 13 minus the 10, and it gives me my interquartile range. Now, an outlier formula, an outlier exists if it goes out past these specific values. One of the formulas is you have quartile 1 minus 1.5 times the quartile range. So one of the formulas is, I'll put that over here, it's quartile 1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range. That would be my formula. So if I go into this outlier formula, one of the ranges would be then quartile 1 was, again, this 10. So I could actually type 10 if I want. Minus then 1.5. And then I can use an asterisk or some type of multiplication symbol. And the interquartile range was a 3. If I hit enter, I forgot to put the equal sign though, sorry. Equal sign, then comes the formula. Hit enter, it'll give me 5.5. Notice also you can go, quartile 1 was C2, so you can actually type in C2 minus, and then the interquartile range was this 3, but you got to multiply by 1.5, so I can go 1.5, and let's try parentheses. In parentheses, the interquartile range was actually C8. So if I type in C8 here, close parentheses, hit enter. Again, I forgot to put the equal sign there. So equals that. Oops. Equals that. Let's see if it'll. So it's got a typo here, so it doesn't like something I got there. So I guess there's like my parentheses, so I guess I have to use an asterisk there. So notice how it wants to use an asterisk for multiplication. So I'm going to accept that and see if it'll change it. Notice how it will do it. So you have to actually use an asterisk for multiplication. You can't use parentheses in here, it looks like. So if I'm past 5.5, it's considered an outlier. So was there any numbers out past 5.5? And we did see 2 was out past that. So 2 looks like it's an outlier. Now, to do the other side of it, I can go equals, I can go quartile 3, so C3, but this time I have to add 1.5 times, and then what I can do is type in the interquartile range, which is this C8. So if I do that, it should work for me now. I did put the equal sign in for once. What's going on there? Gave me something weird. If I drag it out a little bit, drag it out a little bit. So what did I do wrong there? Did I not? So my quartile 3 was actually C6. Looks like I got that wrong. So quartile 3 was actually C6. So that's that 13 plus 1.5 times C8. Let's see if that will now correct itself there. So if I'm out past 17.5, then that's going to be an outlier. So it looks like 25 is out past 17.5. So it looks like we have two outliers. The 2 and the 25 would be our outliers. Now, something else I could do is I can draw a box and whiskers plot. So to draw a box and whiskers plot, I can go to Insert. Let's see here. Let's go back to Home. Insert. So to do a box and whisker plot, we have this graphic here. If you see where my mouse is moving at, this little graphic here. If I hit the drop-down menu there, notice how box and whisker pops up. So it creates a box and whisker, but notice how it's going all over the place. So what I need to do is make sure it just does the box and whisker of this data here. So let me see if I can go backwards here and take that off. So if I just highlight this data over here and then hit Insert, box and whisker, histogram. Notice now it's focusing on just this data here. So I had to highlight the data first before I can insert the table. Now notice I'm not seeing any labels. So one other thing you can do is over here where it says add chart element, if I click on that, if I come down here to data labels, and if I just say hit to the right, notice how it gives me some things here. Uh, I can also move this around a little bit, get a little bit closer over here if I want. I don't know if I can zoom up a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. So I can make it a little bit bigger as well. But notice how the 2 and the 25 are little dots. That's saying they're outside of the normal. So so quartile, they're saying if I ignore the outliers, 7 and 15 would be the max and min. But if I'm including the outliers, 2 and 25 are the max and min. But the 2 and 25 are also going to be considered outliers. Now, as far as the quartiles go, notice how there's this 10, 12, and 13. So the 10, 12, and 13, that's quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3. So notice how over here, 10, 12, and 13 were our quartiles. So notice how the box and whisker displays those. Now, one other thing that this box and whisker also shows is the mean of 11.8. So typically we don't include that in our box and whisker, but this graphic does. And we could probably remove it somehow, but it's not that important to me. But also I can generate a box and whisker using Excel. So again, what I did is, if I can go back again, back, 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 back. So again, what I did is I highlighted the data. I went to Insert, and then I was looking for this little graphic here. Looks like a histogram. Drop down. There's also a box and whisker right there. So it generates the box and whisker. And again, if I want, I can move it. I can drag a little bit. You can also kind of use control, scroll a little bit, and you can make it a little bit bigger. But also it doesn't have my labels. But if I go to add chart element and go down to data labels, and I usually do them to the right, it actually shows me my data labels. So notice how this dot 2 and 25, they're my max and min. But since they fall outside this outlier formula, if I'm past 5.5, notice that 2 is out past 5.5. And if I'm out past 17.5, those are outliers based on the formula that we were given in our text. So notice how, again, though, it does give me the 7 and 15 become our new max and min if we ignore the outliers. And then notice how still 10, 12, and 13 are quartiles. So again, as is, you know, if they asked for the max and min, I would still be saying 2 and 25 at this point. But if we move further, we would throw the outliers out and we would redo everything without the outliers and see what happens to the data. So there's a little bit of helpfulness of using Excel to do some measures of position.